Good afternoon and welcome to our discussion. Ask us anything about our Master of Science programs at the DeVos Graduate School of Management. My name is Todd Thomas. I am Associate Academic Dean here in the graduate school. I teach in most of these programs at one point or another, and am highly involved in the programming that we do. For those who are interested in programs like this, you often hear from people like me because we know the programs, we talk about them, and we really want to see you in the program. But what we found is more valuable is an opportunity for you to hear from people who are currently in the program or who have recently been in the program so that they can answer the questions that are important to you and answer them from what we would call a real life perspective. For those who are still in classes, they have been asked to be as candid as possible, and so we really want an honest and open conversation to address the questions that you might have about our MS programs. Um, we have three panelists here, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And if you would, when you introduce yourself, please let us know what program you're in. And although everybody can't see my screen, let's just do this in the order, in sort of a random order here, so that people don't just stare at each other and wonder who's next. So maybe Tanika, you could start, and then Audrey, and then Nicholas. So Tanika?
Hello, my name is Tanika Williams, and I am a graduate of the Master of Science in Organizational Leadership program. I am currently an employee with the County of Saginaw. And a fun fact about myself is that I do have a small business. I'm a photographer on the side, and it just became a part of the Saginaw County Chamber of Commerce. So that's pretty exciting.
I'm Audrey Maxon. I am a graduate of the MSF program. I started in January of 2019 and I finished in December of 2020. And I currently, for the past almost 6 years, I have worked for Huntington Bank. I started in deposit services and then I moved into loan servicing. I started in loan servicing and customer service, and then I moved into commercial loan funding. And currently I work in consumer loan servicing with paid off loans and paid off real estate.
And I am Nicholas Goodbinder. I am currently halfway through the MSBA program. I work at Motorad as a business intelligence manager, where I have many of the things that we're kind of learning about, whether it's forecasting or data management and all those things that roll up to me.
Excellent. As we go through our conversation here this afternoon, hopefully we'll be able to connect some dots as to why you are interested in the programs that you're interested in, given your backgrounds and your career views and all of those things. One thing I meant to mention is that if you're on the call, please feel free to use the Q&A section to ask any questions that you would like. If we see that there are questions, then we will include those. I, of course, have a few that I think would be interesting for us to hear from our panelists, but really, if you have specific questions and if they are for a specific panelist, please post that question and we'll jump right on it. And I think one of the easiest things or easiest ways for us to open the conversation would be with the question, why did you select the program that you selected? And if you don't mind, why did you choose the DeVos Graduate School as the place to do that? And I think, Nicholas, let me start with you, and then I'd like to get an answer to that one from everybody. So thank you.
Okay, yeah, so the MSBA program really aligned with my current roles and responsibilities, but also kind of where I wanted to go, where it's I guess leadership along with a technical understanding, and the program, the MSBA program, really kind of offered both of that. So it was not only the technical, maybe like programming type classes that you would take, but also like more theoretical classes. And then DeVos, for me, it's highly, Northwoods is highly involved with like the automotive aftermarket, and it was just a good natural fit for me.
Thank you for that. Tanika, why did you choose the program? And it's not just been one, I know. How does that fit for you? Why DeVos?
For me, well, as far as leadership, I chose that program because I've always been passionate about leadership. I've always been one who wanted to get a deeper understanding of the difference between, leading and managing, because there is a sincere difference there. And the reason I chose DeVos was after attending an open house, it just seemed like it was a very friendly environment. It seems like all the professors, all the staff, they genuinely care about the students and their success.
Good, thank you. And Audrey?
So I chose the MSF program because after I finished my undergrad degree, I actually majored in poli-sci in my undergrad. So I don't come from a business or finance background whatsoever. I haven't taken a math class since I was in high school. But when I finished my undergrad, I got a job with the bank, and I wasn't really sure at the time if I'd be staying in that field or not. But after a few years, I decided that I did want to stay in banking. And so I always kind of knew that I wanted to pursue grad school. So I decided after I had been with the bank for a few years that I would do that. And I felt that the finance program was the best fit for the banking field with the classes and everything. And I chose DeVos. I actually looked into other programs, both online programs and at other schools in my area that I would have been doing in-person classes. And I just didn't feel like, I felt like a lot of the programs required some classes that weren't really relevant to the degree itself. And I just didn't really want to be wasting my time and money on taking classes and spending money on classes that I wouldn't really end up using in my career.
Great. And that is, of course, one of the things that we promote a lot is this ongoing effort to make sure that our programs are applied programs, which, means that, if there's a course in there that doesn't seem to move it along, people are very quick to ask that question. And so we try to do that. Audrey, it's interesting because as you were talking, you then are an example of somebody, for example, in the MSF that you haven't been a lifelong accountant or a lifelong finance person, but now you're in a career where it makes sense that this degree could help you moving forward. How's it go? I mean, how does this MSF or this MS program then work for you? Because I know, and let me just give you some background for the question. I know a lot of people would really like a degree like that, but they're horrified because it says finance and their life hasn't been, in finance. And obviously, Nicholas, I'll come to you in a minute about analytics on this too. But how have you found that? I mean, is the career motivation enough to get you engaged? Have you found that your lack of lifetime finance commitment has been a problem, or how have you dealt with that?
Yeah, so I did feel that the motivation with my career and furthering my career was definitely enough. And I did, at first, when I was looking into DeVos and the MSF program, I was kind of intimidated because I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, I've never taken an accounting class, so I don't really know. But when I was talking with Lauren Bess about the program, she really reassured me that you're not the only person who's gone through this program who's in the same boat. And, accounting classes may be helpful, but they're certainly not required. And I did find that to be true. And I do work I do basic math in my job every day, so it's not like I'm completely clueless. But yeah, I didn't feel that it was an impediment to me at all to not have that background.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you for that. And as I said, Nicholas, I have to go to you on this because I talk to a lot of students who say, man, it looks like analytics is the future. It looks like even if I'm not going to be an analyst, I need this skill set if I'm going to be really successful. But I've never programmed. I don't know anything about software. All of these reasons why analytics just is not an educational field that they want to get into. I know you have a background, but what would you say to somebody who says, "I'd love to do it, but I've never programmed anything. I don't have any clue how this would work."
Yeah, and I think that's really where this program excels, right? Because it gives you those foundations. So the initial classes kind of walk you through how to do some of those things, right? How to program, how to look at data. And that's even for myself who has a background, it was still good to go through some of those basics, really ensure that I have the fundamentals down, right? I learned some new things as well. And that's one of the big reasons I chose this program too, is it wasn't programming for 2 years straight, right? It was learning the fundamentals, learning how databases work, and being able to then apply the things that you've learned to add value to the business. So I would say, to anyone who's maybe not a programmer, it's still I would still do it. I have no
Great.
regrets with that.
Excellent. So Tanika, I want to ask you, and I have some questions here that we've thought through and that we've heard from students fairly often. So when I ask that question, I'm not baiting you. I'm just asking the question that we hear. And one of those questions is, how much time will I be spending on this class, right, or on this program? So if I'm going to do it, and by the way, there was a question in the Q&A that related to virtual or in person. All of these programs at this point are offered online. If we have enough of a demand, if you and 19 of your friends show up in Midland and say, we want it on campus, we'll take care of you. But right now, they're all online. And so sometimes students, sort of struggle with what's that going to mean to me in terms of time commitments and all of that. But you've had more experience than anybody on this call with the degree. So tell us what you think about that.
Well, as far as the leadership program, I would really say, well, with any program, probably it's all about what you want to get out of it. So I would just say, generally, maybe anywhere from 10 to 20 hours per week to go towards your outside of class work. It could be more than that. It could be less, depending on, I guess how efficient you are with getting your work done or how fast you are. I myself probably spent up to 20 hours per week, completing assignments, discussion boards, papers, anything like that. And that's to also include my communications with my professors, because I always tried to do that so they know who I was.
I'm going to have to follow up with that comment then, and then again, I'll sort of go around. But how available are the faculty? Because that's the other concern, and it's one issue for those of us who study in the area of online teaching. One of the issues is when students feel that they are the only one there, right? That they check in and they don't see. So, from your experience, how difficult is it to get time with your faculty member in this sort of setting?
It's not difficult at all. They're very, they make themselves available. Definitely have an open door policy. I even appreciated the fact that during the discussion boards, they would kind of jump in and, chat with us. I think that added value to the topics that we had each week. So definitely very available. It's very easy to keep in touch.
Great. So Audrey, is that time estimate sound true for you, or what's your experience with the work outside of class?
Yeah, I would agree with Tanika. Anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a week. It just really depends on what you're doing that week in class. Like there will be some weeks where you just have readings and a discussion board. So you're not going to spend 20 hours. But then there are other weeks where you have a solo project or a group project that you have to put research and time into, and you have to write stuff up and confer with your group, and those in addition to your reading and your discussion boards. So those weeks you're probably going to be closer to 20 hours.
Okay. All right. So Nicholas, Audrey just mentioned working with her group, as one of the elements of that too. How much group work, and of course each person, is going to answer this relative to the degree that they've been in, but how much group work did you actually end up doing in the MSBA?
So I personally have not done any, but there have been opportunities to do group work in some of the classes. There's been a couple classes like the artificial intelligence. There was opportunities for group work in a couple other classes, but with my schedule and everything, I've just been doing it solo.
Yep. Yep. And really first we try to be flexible, and second, in some of our classes, like in the very technical STEM sort of classes like the MSBA offers, that situation is pretty common, that somebody, and especially if we have a classroom of varied experience, because it might make sense then that if you do work with somebody else, that they have similar experience to you versus others who could help each other, get up to speed. What about the hours outside of class? Does this all ring sort of true for your program as well?
Yeah, I've spent on average probably 15 to 20 hours. There's been a couple classes that maybe it flexes up to 25 if there's a lot of reading or something like that, but generally it's been in that 15 to 25 range.
Okay. So, Nicholas, let me stick with you for a minute. What kind of course materials do people run into in that program? Is it just in general? What kind of things are you working with?
Yeah, so the first couple classes were really the fundamentals, right? It was showing you how to analyze data and the best practices for that, and then also some programming classes, right? So we used Python to intro to Python classes, and then we got into some I guess theoretical classes like database management and data management, right? So it's really been a nice blend of practical, theoretical, and then we're kind of going back to some more practical classes, some hands-on type learning.
Okay. All right. And Audrey, what about you? What sort of course materials do you deal with in your online coursework?
Sure. So I only recall one time ever having to purchase an e-textbook. For most of the classes, the professors provide whatever materials, be it textbooks or the articles you're using. So that was really all I ever dealt with for the MSF program, not a lot.
Okay. And Tamika?
For the leadership program, pretty much every course required a textbook. So you had the option of purchasing an ebook or renting a book on Amazon. That's something that I usually did. Or, if there was a class that I was really intrigued with, sometimes I just go ahead and purchase the book, and I still have a couple of them.
Yeah, there we go. That's good to hear. Now, there is a question over here that in the Q&A that asks, does Northwood University offer career services if I'm looking to change my current job? I can answer that quickly as, oh yes, we offer career services, and we offer career services for life. But I believe that we have the person online who might respond to you in text there, because she's the expert. I know Beth Bryce was here, but yep, there she is. So she's the one that can tell you about that. But it is something that we do. We offer career services for all students. Beth focuses in on our graduate level students and the kinds of careers and questions that you might have. And 15 years from now, if you decide that it's time to change and you need somebody to look at your stuff or give you some advice, the career services are still available for you. So that is something that that we feel good about. Let's see, what other kind of questions do people ask? How was all right? So here's the question: Is has there been a significant moment from your DeVos experience that stands out? Is there anything that sort of jumps out at you as particularly significant in the coursework or the program work that you've done? And Tanika, I think I'll start with you on that one.
I would probably say my capstone experience for the leadership program.
Okay.
I was really nervous about that because I know I always heard people talk about their thesis and everything. So I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? But I had Dr. O'Connor, who is my capstone professor, and he helped me a ton. Any questions that I had, he was always there to answer those questions, whether it was over the phone or email or anything like that. So my particular capstone project, you had an option to, if I remember correctly, you could either choose to write some type of report that was, I think, based on like data that you researched or something like that, or you can just write a case study. I think I got that correct. I know I chose the case study because I love to write. So that was very exciting. Definitely the most memorable moment in that program.
Cool. Nicholas, what about you? Anything jump out?
Yeah, I think in the database management class that I took a couple classes ago, I had been working on a problem in my day job and just couldn't quite figure it out related to databases. And actually, one of the case studies at the end of the chapter helps me actually fix the problem in my job. So it was, it was that immediate benefit that I got.
Right. Yeah, those are always wonderful and just a little bit creepy when you look at it and go, "Oh my goodness, that's exactly what I was looking for at this moment." And Tanika, I know you know from the behavioral classes like leadership, you'll read something one week and then go see it the next day, which is always pretty fascinating. Audrey, what about you? Any particular experience or anything stand out to you at this point?
So for me personally, I think it was just getting halfway through my degree, my program. I think at the halfway point, I was kind of like, okay, like I can do this. I'm not, just getting by. And so for me, it was just kind of like proving to myself that like I made the right choice. Everything was going to be okay. I didn't need to panic anymore about anything.
That's good. That's great. And actually, that makes a lot of sense, right? Is that at some point you have to accept the fact that you actually are being successful, even if you weren't quite sure at the beginning. I want to go back for just a second to something Tanika mentioned because it is the capstone, and she referenced that we have a capstone for each of our Masters of Science programs, and the purpose of the capstone is to provide some kind of real life application of what you've learned during the entire program, so that number one, it gives you a chance to assess, have I really gotten my arms around all the important stuff, but also it is a live experiential opportunity to see the impact of those things. So for example, in the MSBA, the capstone involves finding a specific project in a real company to address a problem using analytics. And so in all of our degrees, this is something that we're really very much committed to, because, I mean, yeah, you could write a thesis or do something like that, but in the end, we want to make sure that when you leave, you've had your hands on it, you know how to operate it, and you're excited about doing that as you go forward. So what should a prospective graduate student consider when looking at Northwood's DeVos Graduate School of Management? You've sort of answered this a little bit when you said, why did you choose it? But you also went through the process of searching. And so I just wonder, and I'll start with you, Audrey, I just wonder, what if somebody is looking for program, looking at MSF programs or any other program, what would you recommend they look for or pay attention to?
Sure. So for me, since I did look into other programs, and I did end up choosing DeVos, I just felt like it was the best fit for me to continue to work full time, and still pursue a graduate degree. I didn't feel any pressure to, again, like be taking these other classes before I could really get into my coursework. And another thing that I really found admirable was that when I was first looking into it, I remember Lauren telling me, we do require our students to have 2 years of real world work experience. That's a requirement to get in the program. And that was also part of why I chose it, because I felt like that really shows that, the grad programs in DeVos are committed to working adults and adults who want to further their careers.
Oh, great. Great. Thank you for that. So Tanika, why should a prospective graduate student consider Northwood or the DeVos Graduate School?
Definitely because I think Audrey mentioned this earlier, because all the courses do apply to the degree that you're pursuing. There's not a class where you feel like it's a waste of time or something that you'll never have to use once you complete your degree. Yeah, I would probably say those are the key things. And
Okay,
yeah.
great. Of course, Nicholas is in that position where you two have answered the good, the easy answers. So, Nicholas, any thoughts about why somebody should, consider Northwood?
No, and I would agree with the sentiment that all the classes are very targeted, right? I don't feel like any of them are wasteful. And then as I was looking for different programs as well, a lot of similar type programs I thought were either too specific or maybe tailored too much to the fads that were going on within data. So maybe it was very targeted to machine learning, but the program at DeVos was much more in the foundations and it built a good foundation for you basically to take and then apply to whatever technology is coming later down the road.
Great. That makes a lot of sense. There is a question in the Q&A about minimum requirements to get into the program and so forth. In a moment, I'm going to introduce you to this mysterious Lauren Best that people have been talking about, and I'll let her answer that question. But just before that, one last round here, I would like to ask a final question. And Nicholas, I'll start with you, and that is, what advice do you have for an incoming graduate student? Somebody that's ready to go, they're coming in. What would you tell them as wise advice?
I would say do it, but then also to lean on the team. Stephanie, Lauren, and we have all been great in kind of ensuring the success. They've always been there to answer questions, and yeah, they've just made sure that we've gotten here. So
that's great. That's great. I really love to hear that too, because it is something that our team's committed to, and often you'll find people struggling a little too long before they, reach out. And all of the team that you mentioned is here to help. Audrey, what is your advice?
Sure. So I would agree. Just go for it. Do it. If you're curious about it and you think it's what you want to do, then do it. But I would also say don't, again, as someone coming from a non-finance background, like don't work yourself up. Don't get panicked. When you look at the syllabus for your class, if there are concepts and things that you're not familiar with, it's okay. It's kind of supposed to be that way. You're supposed to learn. So don't freak out and don't be scared to reach out to your professors and ask questions, because if you have a question about something or you're confused about something, there's probably someone else in your class who is too. You won't be the only one.
That's a very good point. And Tanika, what about your wise advice?
Mine would be to definitely read your syllabus. Stay organized when it comes to your assignments and your due dates. Go above and beyond with all assignments, especially a discussion board. Just because they say post 3 times doesn't mean it just has to be 3 times. And also to build a rapport with your professors. Definitely allow them to be able to put a name with the face, or if it's online, just to know who you are and just don't be a number.
Very good. Before I hand it over to Lauren, there was a question that popped up that I will take, which is, does each class end with a final exam? Actually, there are very few classes that have exams and final exams in any of our programs, primarily because we believe that those are not necessarily the best reflection of learning, and especially for adult learning. There are a couple of exceptions. I know, for example, in the MSBA, and that's really because there is a certain amount of technical learning that has to happen, right? So if I'm going to program in Python, then I need to essentially just sit and memorize how things are formatted and those kinds of things. So there, tests might be a little more helpful, but across all of our programs, exams are not really our thing. We would much prefer you to be doing, problem sets, case studies, things like that, as opposed to sitting down and taking a test. So with that, I would like to invite Lauren to pop in. There, like
Hello,
magic.
everyone.
Like magic, there she is.
Yes.
So I said I was going to leave you with the minimum requirements question, Lauren.
Yep,
And,
absolutely.
I'm going to mute myself, which happens very rarely, and let you fill people in.
Absolutely. And that's a great question. So thank you so much for answering that. So we do have a GPA requirement of a 3.0, but also having work experience is really what's going to leverage you to be successful in any one of our graduate programs. And the reason being is that we're taking a look more at that work experience is because that's during the program, you're going to see a catapult between your real world work experience and the program that you're going through. So from day one in any of our graduate programs, you can take what you are learning and apply it to your real world work experience. And that's what we're really going to hone in on. We do have a GPA minimum of a 3.0. However, if it does fall short of that, that does not mean that you're not going to get accepted into the program. That work experience piece is a huge component to the program. So I just wanted to just reiterate that as well. And I think I answered that question fully. So if there is anyone on the call here today that is interested in moving forward, our admissions process is pretty simple. First and foremost, you would complete an online application at our apply.northwood.edu on the DeVos site. You can either email me or upload your resume under supplemental documents within the application. We do need all official transcripts from all colleges and universities attended. If you are a Northwood alum, don't sweat it. We have those on file already, so we make that process pretty easy for you. And then there could be a writing sample depending on your cumulative GPA. You'll always have an interview with an admissions representative, would be myself or someone else on the team. And then once accepted into the program, there would be a commitment deposit that is due, and that is something that we'll talk about in your interview. We are accepting applications for our next start, which is March 14th coming up, and it's definitely not too late to enroll for that start. What I love about all of our MS programs is that we do have a program that starts every 8 weeks. So it's definitely not too late to jump on board for that March 14th start date. I also want to just dive into a couple of the other programs that we offer here at DeVos Graduate School. We offer a Master of Business Administration and MBA that is 24 months, and our next upcoming start for that will be in the fall, in August 22nd. As our wonderful panel discussed today, we have a slew of Master of Science programs, the Master of Science in Business Analytics, Finance, Human Resources, and Organizational Leadership. And I do, for anyone out there that does already have a master's degree, we offer a Doctor of Business Administration, a DBA, that we just launched. So it's a phenomenal program. All of these classes are flexible class formats, 8-week courses. Each has a a capstone project, and a dedicated graduate advisor to help you through the program and help register you for classes. Scholarships are also available, and we do not require the GMAT or the GRE for any of our graduate programs. Again, next upcoming start is March 14th for our spring semester. Summer will begin May 16th, and August 22nd is our biggest start for the fall for all of our graduate programs, MBA all the way through the DBA program. Here's my contact information. I would love to connect with any and all of you. Please feel free to jot my number, my email down. Again, we just thank you so much for joining our webinar today. I want to thank our panelists, Nicholas, Tanika, and Audrey. You are true advocates of our program, and it's so great to see all of you. I'm just so thankful that everyone is enjoying their program and is just doing great. So it's great to see all of you. If you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help anyone and everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. And I would also add thank you to our panelists. And especially thanks to you who have logged on to listen to some of this information. We know you have lots of decisions to make and lots of things that you look at. I can't say enough that if you have any question at all, contact Lauren. If you want to speak to a professor of any of our classes, we'll certainly let you do that. Whatever it is that would be helpful for you, please let us know. So thank you, Tanika, Audrey, and Nicholas. Thank you, Lauren, and we hope that all of you have a great rest of your day. See you.